Hey everybody, Kelly Berry from Kelly Berry Media here today, and today I wanted to focus on a question that I'm sure a lot of you have out there. Is it worth it to purchase a much more expensive lens when there's a lot of inexpensive lenses out there that I can purchase? And what I thought I would do is focus on two lenses that are very similar in many ways, except for the price point and the image quality. So what we have here is the Minolta Roker X f1.7 and 50 millimeter. So these are both 50 millimeter lenses. We have the Zeiss f2 Loxia 50 millimeter over here. So this is a great comparison in many ways because obviously they're both 50 millimeter lenses. They're also both manual focus lenses for the Sony Alpha line of cameras. There's no autofocus in either of these, and I know that's going to turn a lot of people off. But at the same time, I mean, once you start using it, in a lot of ways, you'll never go back, depending on what you're using it for. So this is a great comparison. This lens I purchased on Amazon. If you've seen my previous video, I did a quick review on this lens. I purchased it on Amazon for about $35, and this is just a spectacular lens for the money. I mean, $35. This lens was in mint condition when I purchased it. I mean, it's just an overall very nice lens. And then I purchased this adapter, this Fotka adapter, also from Amazon for about 10 bucks. So I mean, all in, around $50 for this entire setup, which you can get f1.7, metal build quality, very nice focus ring, all for under $50. Now, in comparison, we have the Zeiss Loxia 50 millimeter f2. So this is an f1.7, this is an f2. So the depth of field is going to be a little bit different, but I have to say, after using this lens, I would take this lens any day over this one for multiple reasons. This is just a spectacular lens. It's very well made. The focus ring, if you've seen my previous video about this lens, this is the best focus ring I've ever felt ever in a lens, and that's saying something. I mean, this is just a great lens. It fits very well with the Sony Alpha line of cameras, and overall I'm very happy with this. This is about a $950 lens I believe I paid, and it was very difficult to find. I could not find this lens anywhere. I finally found a place online that had a few in stock, and I had to pull the trigger. So very nice lens. In terms of the differences, they're both about the same size. They are both around the same aperture, f2, f1.7, and they are a perfect fit for the Sony Alpha line of cameras. And the main difference, of course, that everybody wants to know is image quality. How does the Minolta, this $50 lens, compare to this $950 Zeiss Beast? So that's what we're going to get into. So let's look at some image samples. So here we have an example of the two different lenses in action. This was not taken on a tripod. I just held it kind of in a place where it looked about the same for both lenses. And here we see the Minolta f1.7. Again, this is a $35 lens plus about a $10 adapter to get it on the Sony A7. So all in around $50, give or take. This one right here is the Zeiss Loxia. Again, this is about $950, and this is designed specifically for the Sony Alpha full-frame line of cameras. So let me put them right next to each other, side by side. And this one is a little bit overexposed, nothing crazy. These are both raw files. I have not touched them up whatsoever coming out of the camera. And as we can see here, this is the Zeiss, this is the Minolta. And let me zoom in on a couple spots here. I'll start with this little scar on this wood here because that's a good example. And clearly, I mean, you can just see if you're pixel peeping that this is just such a more sharp image compared to this, the Minolta 50mm f1.7. Again, it's a little overexposed, but I mean, it's just the sharpness and the contrast of the image versus this, which is really kind of hazy, cloudy, and pretty much, not sharp. And this is, one of the reasons that you're paying a whole lot more money for the Zeiss versus something like this Minolta. For most people, I mean, if you're not going to be zooming in too much, this would do just fine, this image over here versus the Zeiss. But, if you want total clarity, total sharpness, especially if you're going to be doing portraits or close-ups of various things, animals, nature, people, that kind of thing, you're going to want this sharpness that comes with the Loxia line, or with any high-end line of prime lens. And also, again, if you can see here, I wasn't focusing on this spot as much as that scar, but you can see, I mean, just the sharpness and the clarity that you receive with that Loxia versus this with the this is the Minolta over here. So this is a great example. So here we have another example. This is just a statuette of George Washington, and right here we have the Zeiss. You can tell because of the metadata you're receiving at f2. And here we have the Minolta. So Zeiss Minolta. And let's just focus on his eye real quick, because that's what I was focusing on, and that's what you would be focusing on if you were doing some portraits. And this is a little bit lower light, and right away, as you can see, I mean, it's nothing crazy. There is a lot more sharpness and contrast in here, and the colors are a little bit different in the Zeiss versus the Minolta, but nothing crazy. That's being said, if you kind of look around, here's some vignetting going on for both images, but here there's a lot more vignetting going on in the Minolta versus the Zeiss. I mean, just look it up here in the top right-hand corner. There's literally no vignetting. Well, maybe just a little bit, but over here, I mean, clearly a whole lot more vignetting. So this is another good comparison. One of these is the Zeiss, and the other one is the Minolta. And they are both taken at wide open apertures, and the aperture for the Minolta again is f1.7 and the Zeiss is f2, so there's going to be a little bit difference in the depth of field, but nothing crazy. So can you guys guess which one is which? Well, this one over here is the Zeiss, and this one over here is the Minolta. And I focused, I believe, on this the Karl Marx book, or maybe the Sacred Heart, I don't know, Sacred War. But as you can see here, and I'll do the same right over here, again, the resolution, in not really the resolution, but just the clarity in general is much better on the Zeiss when you're zooming in. But at the same time, I mean, if you're not zooming in, if you're not looking that closely, I mean, these are pretty close in nothing is too different. And here are a few video samples from the two lenses. As you can see, the depth of field is relatively similar. The contrast is pretty good on both lenses, and to be honest, I wouldn't mind using either lens for a lot of video work. You can also notice the in-camera image stabilization on the Sony A7II in full effect. So after doing these tests on the Zeiss and the Minolta lenses, I have to say ultimately, I mean, as you saw, the Zeiss blows away the Minolta in terms of sharpness, in terms of contrast, and overall image quality. That being said, I mean, if you are looking for a lens that's very cheap, very well made, and gets some incredible images, nothing spectacular, but excellent images, there's no way you can go wrong with something like this Minolta 50mm f1.7. It's a great lens. It fits very well on your Sony Alpha line of cameras, and it's just a great lens. That being said, if you're looking for something a little bit more exotic and ultimately a whole lot more money, but you're looking for an experience that is difficult to find in any other lens, you cannot go wrong with this Zeiss Loxia. So I definitely suggest the Zeiss Loxia over the Minolta, but if you want to save yourself $900 and you want some decent image quality, you really can't go wrong with something like this Minolta. So overall, both great lenses, just depends on what you're using them for and what your needs are. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe, and thank you very much. Until next time.